You cancel plans, and before the relief even hits, something else shows up. Guilt, this wave of "what's wrong with me" that rolls in every time you choose a quiet night over a crowded room. You watch other people thrive in groups, energized by noise and laughter and constant connection, and you wonder why you're not built the same way. Why silence feels like oxygen to you, when everyone else seems to breathe just fine in a crowd. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that needing space made you selfish. But here's what psychology actually tells us about people who crave solitude. You're not cold, you're not broken, you're not failing at being human. The research points to something far more interesting. Your brain literally processes the world differently, and once you understand why, that guilt starts to lose its grip. So let's walk through this together. Your brain is not wired the same as everyone else's, and that's not poetry, that's neuroscience. Psychologist Elaine Aron spent years studying what she calls sensory processing sensitivity, and what she found changes everything. About 15 to 20% of people have nervous systems that process stimuli more deeply. Light, sound, emotion, conversation. It all registers at a higher volume. Think of it like this. Most people have a radio that picks up a few clear stations. Yours picks up every frequency. The music, the static, the signals between the signals. A dinner party isn't just a dinner party. It's 30 conversations layered on top of background noise, layered on top of reading facial expressions, layered on top of managing your own energy. Your brain is doing 5 times the work in the same environment. So when you leave early, or when you need a day to yourself after a weekend with people, that's not you being difficult. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it's designed to do, seeking regulation. You're not avoiding people. You're recovering from the sheer volume of information your brain just processed. And the fact that you're even aware of this, that you notice the weight of social spaces, that's not a flaw. That's depth. You've probably heard the phrase social battery, but let's talk about what's actually happening underneath that metaphor. There's a concept in psychology called optimal arousal theory, sometimes linked to the Yerkes-Dodson law, which says every person has an ideal level of stimulation where they function best. Too little, and you feel bored. Too much, and you feel overwhelmed. The sweet spot is different for everyone. For some people, that sweet spot sits high. They need noise, movement, interaction to feel alive. For others, that optimal point is much lower. A quiet morning, a book, one meaningful conversation. That's the full tank. Picture 2 engines. One is built for highways. It needs speed to run efficiently. The other is precision engineered for winding roads. It performs beautifully, but redlines fast when you floor it. Neither engine is broken. They're just built for different terrain. So when someone tells you that you should get out more, or that you need to be more social, they're essentially telling a perfectly tuned engine to run someone else's race. Your need to withdraw isn't a malfunction, it's calibration. And respecting that calibration, choosing to step away before you burn out, that's not weakness. That's one of the most intelligent things you can do for yourself. Here's where it gets complicated. Because the guilt you feel, it didn't start with you. It was handed to you by a culture that equates being social with being healthy, and being alone with being broken. From the time you were a child, the message was clear. Popular is good. Quiet is concerning. Group projects are collaboration. Solo work is avoidance. The kid who wanted to read at recess was the one to worry about. Psychologist Leon Festinger's social comparison theory explains this. We measure ourselves against the people around us, not because we want to, but because our brains are wired to assess where we stand. And when everyone around you seems energized by connection, your need for space starts to look like a deficit. You start comparing your appetite for solitude to their appetite for socializing. And that's like measuring your hunger by someone else's plate. But here's the thing. The guilt isn't evidence that you're doing something wrong. The guilt is just the echo of a standard that was never designed for you. It's inherited, it's cultural, and it's worth questioning. Because when you actually sit with the solitude, when you let yourself be alone without the running commentary of, I should be somewhere else, what do you feel? Most people, when they're honest, say peace. There's a reason your best thinking happens when no one else is around. Psychologists Rachel and Stephen Kaplan developed something called attention restorate, ion theory, which suggests that focused attention, the kind you use in social settings, at work, in conversations, is a limited resource. It depletes, and one of the most effective ways to restore it is through solitude and quiet, low-stimulation environments. On top of that, neuroscience has shown that when you're alone and your mind is free to wander, your brain activates what's called the default mode network. This is the part of your brain responsible for self-reflection, creative thinking, future planning, and making meaning from your experiences. It's not idle time, it's integration time. Think of it like defragmenting a hard drive. You've taken in enormous amounts of information, emotions, conversations, decisions, and your brain needs uninterrupted space to organize all of it. That afternoon you spent doing nothing? Your brain was doing everything. It was processing, sorting, connecting dots you didn't even know were there. So when people say you're wasting time by being alone, the science says the opposite. You're investing in the quality of your thinking. You're giving your brain the space it needs to function at its best. That quiet room isn't avoidance. It's a workshop. People confuse these two words all the time, and that confusion has caused a lot of unnecessary pain. Being alone means you're by yourself. Being lonely means you feel disconnected, unseen, like no one understands you. They are not the same thing. And here's the part that often gets lost. You can feel deeply lonely in a room full of people, and you can feel completely whole, sitting by yourself with a cup of tea and an open window. Psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan developed self-determination theory, which identifies three core human needs: competence, relatedness, and autonomy. That third one matters here. Autonomy, the need to feel like your choices are your own. When you choose solitude, you're exercising autonomy. You're honoring what your mind and body are telling you. That's not isolation, that's self-knowledge. The difference is the door. Choosing to sit in a quiet room is completely different from being locked in one. And if your solitude feels like relief, like coming home to yourself, that's a sign of something healthy, not something broken. Now, let's be clear. If your desire to be alone comes with persistent sadness, withdrawal from everything you once loved, or a feeling of numbness, that's worth exploring, gently, maybe with a professional. But preferring your own company, that's just knowing who you are. So the next time that guilt creeps in, when you close the door and finally breathe, let it pass. You are not selfish for needing space. You are not cold for choosing quiet. You are someone whose mind runs deep, and depth requires stillness. If this gave you permission you didn't know you needed, leave a like. If you want more videos about the psychology of people like us, subscribe. That stillness you crave? It was never something to apologize for.